So carrying on with the white male psychopathic murderers of Kentucky. Okay, I have a few examples that I'm going to go into detail about, and right now I'm talking about Rod Farrell. And so far, I'm at the part of this book where I think it's going to answer some questions, but the story actually gets more and more fucked up as I read, and I think I can only read like a couple pages because this Rod Farrell just is a psychopath. Rod Farrell is such a fucking psychopath. He's such a shitty person. He's arrogant. He's cocky. He's just a fucking piece of shit. He likes that people are afraid of him because that's the only time he ever feels any type of power. And anytime he gets respect is by trying to get people to fear him. And so where did that come from? Where did that lack of self-esteem to where he wants to make people fucking fear him? Where did that come from? So Rod Farrell from Murray, Kentucky, in Callaway County. The defense's first witness was Rick Farrell, Rod's father. So he had three father figures, but he was raised by his mother and his grandparents. So he had a father and two stepfathers. Rick Farrell. Bill Lackey asked him on direct, "Do you feel like you abandoned Rod?" "No, I do not," Rick Farrell said. "Sandra would be friendly one minute, and the next minute she'd be very difficult to deal with." Sandra, the mother. So actually, Rod Farrell had mentioned three different groups that had affected him socially. He said it was the police, and he said that whenever he sees a police car, that just means a nightstick over his head, just one of those baton over his head. And so he just talked about police brutality, talked about the school system, and he talked about his mother. They all forced him to get on to talk to a psychiatrist, and then they give him some medication. So he's on medication, which is also a connection to Joseph Thomas Westbecker, who in 1989 shot and murdered 8 or 9 people in Louisville, Kentucky. So Joseph Thomas Westbecker had some medication, and that became a controversy. But this here, Rod Farrell, was in 1996. So this is 7 years later. So I'm not sure why this part wasn't exploited. Maybe the defense didn't want to really give a hard case. Who knows? Let's just keep on reading. I'm going to try to actually get through all these words, as many words as I can, in 12 minutes. Okay. So Sandra is hard to deal with one minute and difficult to deal with the next. I believe that it would have made a difference if I and my mother, Betty Jane Farrell, had been able to raise Rod. Next called was Diane K. Smith, the manager of Southside Manor Apartments in Murray. During Candace Hawthorne's direct, Miss Smith said how she had seen Rod Farrell and Sandra Gibson, his mother, Sandra Gibson, going up and down the road, not socially. She thought they were girlfriend and boyfriend, not mother and son, because they would hold hands. They were both dressed in black everything, including nail polish. They moved out in November '96. She inspected the apartment after they moved out. They paid no rent. They had no income. It was a subsidized apartment. Candace Hawthorne asked anything unusual in the apartment. Miss Smith said the main room had a few holes, nothing unusual. But the master bedroom had a pentagram on the floor. So a pentagram had a star. In Sandra's room. She dresses in black. The fucking relationship with him and the mother is weird. And him and the mother, there's the Newtown shooting, in, I think, Connecticut, where that kid killed all those kids. Him and his mother had a real weird fucking relationship. So, Day 5. On Day 5, the defense brought out the big guns to demonstrate just how dysfunctional Rod Farrell's family really was. They began by showing a videotaped deposition made by Betty Jane Farrell, Rod's paternal grandmother. On the tape, she told how she was raised most of her life in West Virginia, moved to Kentucky in 1969, and resided there for 19 years. So they're influenced by West Virginian culture. Confederates? I don't know. That would be similar to Charles Manson. So she and her husband had adopted Rick Farrell, Rod's father. She said that she knew nothing of Satan and denied her husband was the one who allegedly raped 5-year-old Rod. It was Harold Gibson, Sandra Gibson's father, whom Rod had named as the alleged rapist in the revels of the Black Mask cult. So supposedly Harold Gibson, and that's another connection between Charles Manson, white male Kentucky psychopath, and Rod Farrell, assuming that's true. He's spilling his guts. He's basically telling the truth. I don't know why we would not believe him based on that. And it does turn him into a bit of a victim. I mean, at 5 years old to have something like that happen. So he was getting raped. Rod Vasago Farrell was getting raped. Charlie Manson was getting raped. And then they become these fucking monsters. That's a bad connection, Kentucky. So let's quit raping the boys. Stop raping the young, soon-to-be men. You know, boys, underage, immature boys. Quit raping immature boys. That's fucking disgusting, and you're fucking their lives up. Okay, so however you know that's you get your kicks that fucking way. Like, you know, I don't know. Psychopaths have no fucking empathy. So a fucking rapist can rape somebody just the same way that a murderer can murder somebody, because they don't give a fuck what the other person thinks. They cannot empathize with the person that they're harming, that they're hurting. And that's there's psychopaths. Rod Farrell's a psychopath because he was being raped. And so his grandfather was a psychopath too. And so were all the jailers in Charlie Manson's young life. They were fucking rapists, or they overlooked rape. There was a culture of rape in the jail. He kept running away from it and kept getting raped. So in the video deposition, Betty Jane Farrell recalled wistfully of Rod. He was a sweet little boy, the sweetest little thing. Ashley Elkins took the stand. She lived in Murray, where she was a senior in high school. She'd known Rod for 2.5 years and met her mother. She'd also the one-time girlfriend of Jaden Smith Murphy, Farrell's vampiric sire. She testified a bunch of kids would visit Rod's house. Rod's mother would rub the boys, touch them, flirt with them. They're about Rod's age, mid-teens, a little older. Weird. It's getting weirder. All this fucking sexual perversion, dementia. The fucking mother's sitting there touching her son's fucking friends and shit. What kind of weird fucking relationship does Rod Farrell and his mother have? What kind of fucking hold on Rod Farrell does his mother have on him? Is it like Alexander the Great, where mother's just whispering into his ears, telling him all this fucking shit he's gonna be doing and shit, just fucking his brain up and shit? Is it a power thing? Is he being oppressed by her? So he goes out and he cuts himself and he scares people just so he can feel alive? It's the oppression of his mother, because he said my mother, he said the police, and he said the school. Those are the three people that was oppressing him and forced him to get psychiatric help. Heather used to contact Rod through Ashley when his phone had been disconnected. Calls from Heather were before November 26, 1996. She read 4 letters Heather wrote to Ashley's brother, who never wrote back. In one of the letters, Heather said she wanted to get rid of her parents because she wanted to be with him. Ashley assumed it was Rod, and that the only way they could be together. There's a drawing of a teddy bear with a noose around its neck in the letter. Her brother threw the letters away because he didn't want anything to do with her or Rod. On cross-examination, Jim McCoon asked, is it true Rod Farrell always tried to intimidate people? Yeah, he wanted me to be scared of him. He wanted everyone to be scared of him, Ashley said. So, he just intimidating fucking psychopathic asshole. This Rod Farrell's a fucking prick. Is it true that Mr. Farrell only cared about Mr. Farrell? That's how it seemed to me. Now, how did he make any threats towards you? One time he called me names and said he's going to spread my guts all over the wall so that everyone could see them and smell them, Ashley Elkins said. She didn't take him seriously, but she stopped seeing him at that time. She was angry with him, thought a friend wouldn't say such things. Then he started following her like a stalker, like a weird fucking... He has to own somebody to feel, that he loves them. And he has to scare them to fucking control them. And so, now he's like, I gotta hurt you and you do as I say. Farrell told her he was powerful and he could hurt people. Indirect threat. Candace Hawthorne called Jaden Smith Murphy to the stand. He was husky, looked like he could take care of himself, was well-spoken and articulate. He wore an ink pendant, an ancient Egyptian symbol of life. Jaden Smith Murphy was his real name, though not his birth name. He said he used to wear all black, was into vampirism. That was not why he and Rod Farrell became friends. It was more that they dressed alike and were both outcasts. We didn't fit in with the redneck or prep genre in the school. Farrell's hair was strawberry blonde when they first met. Later, he dyed it black. Murphy turned Farrell on to playing Vampire the Masquerade, a dark fantasy role-playing game. The game was a melange of occultism, Bram Stoker, Anne Rice's vampire novels, horror movies, English hammer, fangs, and gore, films, and similar elements. Game players would create a fantasy character and enact them in scenarios taken from the game manual. It was a live-action game, a kind of fantasy theater in the round, played in various locals that fit the gothic mood of the mythos. The largest number of people that had ever played in Jaden Murphy's game was 20. The games would run from dawn to dusk, played out in graveyards, under railway trestles, in empty fields, and lonely woods. Radical education. Murphy was the game master, directing the action. His game master book contained different scenarios, rules, and codes of conduct, serving as a template for his vampire clan. He told how he crossed Rod Farrell over, which means he made him into a vampire. I've been telling Rod about my lifestyle. I couldn't fly, I just had a craving for blood, human and animal. The first time I tasted blood other than my own, I was 5. We don't have certain gods we worship. I took a knife and cut my arm. He took from me, and he did the same, and I took from him. So they're drinking each other's blood. Candace Hawthorne said, "Were you then known as Rod's sire?" "Yes, more or less. I was the one who embraced him and crossed him over into our way of life." But Murphy stressed that he was not responsible for him if he messed up or anything. Jaden Murphy was not into drugs at the time, not for the last 4 years. He was into self-mutilation and cutting himself even before the game to relieve emotional pain and stress. I guess that's normal, right? He was dating Ashley Elkins at the time. He knew Sandra Gibson, Rod Farrell's mother. She was sending his younger brother Josh very sexually oriented letters and sent him a key to her apartment asking him to embrace her so she could be his eternal bride. My mother was furious, could have pressed charges. Later that summer, he did have a falling out with Farrell. He went over to hang out at Rod's. Rod and his mother were fighting with each other, which was their normal pattern, you know, like lovers, or like a boy who's confused and don't know what to fucking do with an oppressive mother. Then Sandra and Jaden got into a beef. She said he was controlling Rod. Rod wasn't listening to her, blah, blah. Rod was being cocky. Said he felt Jaden was standing on him. Jaden grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall. The relationship was deteriorating anyways because Farrell was getting too intense, drawing outside attention to the vampire clan. Candace Hawthorne said, "You're known as the Prince of the City in Murray." Yeah, it's an ongoing joke. Didn't a prosecutor from Murray visit you to take a blood sample? Yeah, they found fingerprints on the Windorf crime scene they couldn't identify. Murphy said, looking at Farrell and smirking, he knew that at one point Farrell tried to hang the murders on him. The witness then read a love letter written to him by Sandra Gibson, quoting her, "If I could have one wish, it would be to spend my life with you." On the letter was the ink symbol. Basically, she was proposing marriage, she said. The letter was signed, "Eternally Star, Mistress of the Dark." McComb took the cross-examination, asked her straight out, "Why were you smiling at the defense table?" Murphy said, "It's been some time since we've seen each other and we're close. Do you love Rod?" "I love Rod." "Are you a vampire?" "Yes, I was into this lifestyle even before this game. I mean, I'm not eternal. I'm only 18 years old, so it's a lifestyle thing." "Yes, you don't have fangs, do you?" "No." "Isn't one of the laws of being a vampire is that you don't kill?" "Yes, we have to live the laws man has set as well. We're not supernatural beings that can twist things." "Your fight with Mr. Farrell was provoked, wasn't it?" "Yes, I heard around town that he planned to take my life and that my fiancée at the time, Ashley Elkins, I went to confront him." On redirect, Candace Hawthorne got him to say that he didn't take the threat serious because Rod Farrell had never shown aggression toward him or Ashley. He also didn't believe the source of the rumor. When Jaden Stephen Murphy wrapped up his testimony, Farrell blew him a kiss. That would put him in solid with the jury. Rod Farrell, a.k.a. Visago, the sorcerer's apprentice who had rocketed beyond fantasy into blood and death. April Duden from Murray knew Jaden Murphy. She met Rod Farrell at a game of Vampire the Masquerade and had gone out with him in 1996. As the year progressed, he dyed his hair black, started wearing black nail polish, talked in gothic rhymes and poetry. But everybody did that. They hang out in cemeteries, right? Normal kid stuff. These kids are fucking weird. She testified that she had seen a pentagram in Sandra Gibson's bedroom. She was around once when Heather Windorf called Farrell from Florida and heard her asking him to come get her. She said, "The only way I could see getting out of here is killing them," April testified. She believed that Heather was talking about her parents. The witness was bringing a cordless phone from the other room while Farrell was on the other line, which is how she happened to overhear that part of the conversation. On cross-examination, Brad King brought out some interesting facts. April Duden had been engaged to Rod for a period of months. He thought of you as his light and Charity Kesey as his darkness, correct? Woo! So, he's dating Night and Dark, right? He's dating April Duden, who's his light, and then Charity Kesey is his darkness. He pretended to believe that the child you had was his child. I've heard that, but you know for a fact it wasn't his. Yes, April said she was not involved in vampirism. She believed herself to be a good witch, if anything. Yes, you heard of Heather Windorf and Janine LeClaire. Brad King said Rod had said they were his little women. They followed him. Yes. Lizetta Cruz was Rod Farrell's aunt, Sandra Gibson's sister. Their father was Harold Gibson, Rod's alleged pedo-rapist and satanic cult initiator. Mrs. Cruz described 3 incidents that had taken place before the age of 12 where her father had initiated inappropriate sexual behavior with her. Once he pulled the car over to the roadside and started kissing her. Okay. More Rod Farrell.